All right. Welcome again. So, for those of you who will be watching during the live, we are super excited to have you. And for those of you who will be watching after the live, definitely stay tuned for more things that Alma has in place and also Big Stage Energy. So, today you are tuned in to the art of cross functional influence, marketing, and sales alignment in partnership with Big Stage Energy. We're super excited to bring them to the stage and talk just a little bit more with them and then also about sales and marketing. So we have one of the founders today, actually, and Ty is amazing at what he does in terms of sales, really helping out with that. And also dive into conferences and using those as leads as well. So we're pretty excited to hear that. But let's talk a little bit about AMA before we start. So the African American Marketing Association is a 501c3. So we're a nonprofit and we were formed in 2019. Our mission is pretty clear. So we're here to educate, empower, and elevate Black marketers, creatives, and entrepreneurs. And we accomplish this through programming, right? Just like this one and some of the other ones that we have here in Houston and other cities. But we want to build community and also just create more access to opportunities. All right. So today's program is again focused on interdepartmental infrastructure required between to scale for marketing and sales. Y'all hear me tripping up on my words? Let me slow down. But we just want to ensure that every team member is pulling in the same direction toward the organization's financial goal. It always starts with sales and marketing, right? And so it is very technical, but a little bit about me and why I should be leading this chat. For those of you who don't know, I actually have a media buying agency. So Zam Design is my juice, that's my jazz. But I'm always working in the marketing space and advertising space. And I actually do my own sales. So it's a pretty interesting space, but I've worked corporate and I've helped specifically in the programmatic department, but also creating some of those training decks and the likes for our sales reps. So I'm pretty excited to talk with Ty today. And he's an award-winning technology advisor and ecosystem builder with nearly 2 decades of experience in the IT industry. That's a lot of time. And so after a successful channel sales management career at Cox, Ty founded Optical Diversity Telecom, a global technology telecoms technology advisory firm that helps casino, hotel, airport, retail, and industrial leaders navigate complex telecom initiatives and large-scale IT infrastructure transformations. He also co-founded Big Stage Energy. So that's our partner today and also our partner in in general. So we'll talk a little bit more about them throughout the year. But they are a conference community and consulting firm that expands access to industry events at scale while partnering and empowering event organizers worldwide. Ty's mission is to create pathways that help people access the right rooms, build meaningful relationships, and gain the knowledge that fuels both business growth and personal development. And on that note, we'll bring him to stage. Ty, thank you. I see you're on mute, so before you give us the jazz, there we are.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, of course. So I want to hop into first talking a little bit about Big Stage Energy. You all do a lot of work. So tell the crowd, who is Big Stage Energy and why did you start the group?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So first of all, hello everyone out there, and thank you for having me. So my name is Ty Smith. I'm the second half to Big Stage Energy. So it's myself and my co-founder, Jared Alberton. And basically, Big Stage Energy is a multi-part organization. On one side of the house, we are a conference consulting company where we actually work with a plethora of conferences. There's over 100 plus conferences that we partnered with to really do things to elevate their event, whether it's connect them to certain community partners, certain sponsors that are in our ecosystem, certain influencers that we're connected to, or also different types of like just strategic partners or vendors that they can align with, for their events. In exchange, we actually take those conferences and we work out a deal where we get some tickets. And what we do with those tickets is that we give those tickets to community members, people that would like to join Big Stage Energy and be a part of the organization. So our community members, they pay an annual fee, and then they get access to go to various different conferences for free. We give out tickets to over 50 plus conferences per year to our members. And our members largely are made up of founders, there's some corporate leaders, there's some executives, there's some entry-level talent that's in there, and they use these events to either elevate in their careers, build their personal brands, find their ideal client or their customer, or they leverage them for thought leadership as well.
Look at me, I'm on mute. So that's super cool, Todd. You're definitely creating access to opportunity. And I think a lot of times with conferences, there's a financial appeal to that, right? But it's the exact space that you need to be in, to really craft your career path, right? And so tell me a little bit about this before we hop deeper into the chat. I know you had mentioned that conferences provide yet a lot of value. Speak more to that value. What is that? What does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So conferences are so important, especially when it comes to marketing. And I think that every marketing department should have a conference strategy. I think it's very important for them to know, what conferences are you going to align your brand with? And there's a lot of things to think about when it comes to that. You have to first consider, does your brand story align with the conference's story? Because every conference has a story. There's not many conferences that are just doing a conference just because there's a founder that thought of this conference idea, there's a vision that they have, and you want to make sure that your brand and your company's vision aligns with that vision. You also want to make sure to figure out the data, who's actually going to be there. And we're not talking about sometimes the high level data that you get of, oh, it's 30% executives, it's 20%, mid-career. Like, we're talking about specifically like what titles and what companies are going to be there. Because if you have a company and let's say you're targeting Geico as a big client that you want to get involved with and you want to sell something to them, then you want to know specifically, hey, is the CTO of Geico going to be at this conference? And you want to work with a conference that's going to be able to give you that data. So I think it's very, very important that you align with the right conferences that will give you what you need to drive your marketing and sales goals. And I think also too, when it comes to a thought leadership aspect, you might have certain people that are within your org that need specific thought leadership and need like just certain types of validation within certain industries. So it's figuring out, which stages are you going to put your executives on or your up and coming leaders on, and whether this is to just give them their first swing at it so they can get used to it, whether it's something like that, or whether this is the main stage where we really have to make a splash because we're in front of the entire ecosystem and we want to get on, whether it's the Gartner list or a major publication. So these are things that to think about conferences. They can be very, very valuable to your business.
I see. I don't think I've been putting too much thought into it because that's well in depth. So the thought leadership piece, that was number one that stood out to me. And then also the data piece, right? So I find myself, especially here in director of programs, even though Michelle, our president, leads 98 to 99% of our sponsorship comms, she's teaching us how to really get into that space, right? And have these conversations. And to the point you made, that is a part of the impact statement, right? Who was in the room? Why were they in the room, right? So I find that interesting because it really leads us into the conversation about sales and marketing alignment, right? We have so many different players in each department. They all have different goals, but then we all have one unified goal, right? And that's the finances of the business, the bottom line, okay? Because we got to make money. I think any business out here will agree with that we have to make money. But then we get into our, our passions and our industry standard, right? I work in marketing, you work in sales, it's the same org, but the way that we do things in our department is completely indifferent from yourself. So I want to hop into this. It's not our first question, but it is one that will get us there, right? So tell us a little bit about your career in sales and some of those instances in which you had to see leadership kind of influence the different departments.
Yeah, definitely. So I've had a pretty long sales career, over 16 plus years, from the most frontline. I mean, we're talking, I guess, deep in the trenches that you can think of, from, just working like basic retail sales jobs and technology, all the way up to, doing executive, level deals, enterprise level deals with some of the largest casinos in the world, and, working with the Fortune 50, Fortune 10 on closing deals for their properties. So I've kind of seen really both sides of it. But like I will say that like every side of that business and every channel is super important. I think that's kind of what I've learned from seeing all the different channels, because a lot of times companies will put a lot of focus on their enterprise channel, but they'll forget that you can drive a lot of business from your small business and mid-market channel depending on the route that you go, because there's just a lot more small businesses and mid-market, customers than there are enterprise customers. And a lot of times there's less saturation because there's a new small business that pops up every day. There's thousands of them that pop up every day. Some may have funding, some don't, but it's up to your team and your data to figure that out. So I think it's really important for leadership to really figure out what is going to be prioritized, and to make sure to prioritize evenly where it makes sense, because you have some companies that have a consumer side and a business side, of their product that they go to market for. Some are just focused on the B2B side of things. So it's really figuring out how much effort, how much funding that you're going to do, and if there is more emphasis on the enterprise side, definitely don't make it feel that way to your folks on the mid-market side or on the small business side or on your residential side, because I think sometimes leaders can forget that those folks feel that. And the further down the chain that you go, the tougher the job is, and the more turnover that you're going to have. You're going to have a lot of turnover on your residential side. You're going to have a lot of turnover on your mid-market and your small business side, because these are smaller sales. They have to be done more frequently. It's a higher volume of customers you have to hit to hit a certain quota. So you want to make sure that those folks are definitely taken care of, because it can be tough to re-enable them and replace them with new hires and new people.
Okay. Would you say that, because that's a really good answer to really how you're working over your products in terms of sales and marketing. So making sure that you keep a good overview of what current business looks like and what current business could look like, right? What growth falls into those two brackets, or three in this instance, right? So tell me this, the influence that a leader should have in those spaces definitely is not only authority, but that more omnipresence. So they are more aware of everything that's going on. From your time in sales and leadership, what have you needed from the marketing department that maybe wasn't always there or wasn't on their radar that you had to introduce? What was that?
Yeah, I would say that the best marketing experience that I've gotten, this was very early in my career, worked in a sales call center. And I remember specifically we had a marketing manager. He was very, very unique on how he did things, because he just wanted to hang out in the call center. He loved the call center. And every day he was coming in, we had these things called double jacks, where you would just plug it into the phone system and sit next to someone. But he would very much want to be in there listening to calls, and it wasn't on a threatening way too. Like, he would come with snacks and goodies, and he'd make it fun. But he really, yeah, he really honestly wanted to hear who the customer was. He wanted to hear the voice of the customer. If it was a customer that was purchasing services, or if there was a certain customer segment that was purchasing services at a high rate, you want to hear, who are these customers? What do they sound like? What are their pain points? What are they talking about on the phone? And really get to know them. And then also he wanted to hear about deals that didn't go through, deals that didn't go well. What was the one thing that the customer needed? Oh, they just needed $10 off of this particular ancillary product. Oh, they just needed to know that there was a 30-day return policy instead of a 15-day return policy. And it was the little things like that he was able to pick up to strategically add these little promotions and these little things that just helped our region, absolutely dominate, because he had the autonomy to basically provide certain levels of promotions and discounts and things like that. So that's what I think is the biggest thing. I think it's sad that there's a lot of sales teams that have never interacted with their marketing manager, don't know who their marketing manager is, never met with their marketing director. The marketing director has never spoken to their salespeople, or if they have, it's just maybe been on a video, like a team meeting, but they can't personally name a salesperson that they know personally. I think that needs to be changed a bit, because both sides can help each other.
So the connectivity, and not only that authority, but just being in the space, right? And I love what that leadership did, because account-based marketing, right? Because essentially that's who would benefit the most, right? Is someone who's in account-based marketing. Because if you're consumer goods, your sales could be synonymous with the marketing, right? Because there's one-on-one, versus like if it's an account-based service where I need to sell to a company and actually manage that relationship, et cetera. There's a little indifference there. And so he took the position of going in, hearing the conversations that succeeded and failed, and really helping market to those pain points exactly. So I think that's really smart for every listener out there. Make sure you're connecting those departments. So I want to lead us with question one then, because that is a really good segue: connectivity. Connectivity requires, I'm reading from my phone, but connectivity requires more than just meetings, right? It requires shared intelligence. So how can leadership implement cross-departmental training so that marketing understands frictions in the sales cycle and sales understands the long-term equity of the brand?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So I think, when it comes to alignment, I think there's a three-way alignment that needs to happen. It's, you have marketing, you have sales, but you also have your enablement team. And sometimes those three are speaking different languages, sometimes they have different priorities, and sometimes those leaders aren't necessarily on the same page. And one of the biggest things that I see missed is when it comes to like a company's just ideal client profile that isn't
Mhm.
always properly reflected across those three particular channels. Or sometimes there can be too much change in a company's ideal client profile that it isn't really caught up in the actual enablement of the new people coming in. Or vice versa. It's taught to the new people coming in, but it's not taught to your existing sales teams. So I think that the most important thing is to really have a dual alignment on who that ideal client really is, and to one, make sure that the enablement that any new people coming into the company, new sales reps or new account executives, are also getting the same level of alignment and training that the existing salespeople are as well. Because sadly, there's many departments where salespeople only get trained once. They get trained once and that's it, and they're on the floor, and there's no re-enablement. So then you have situations where your existing folks may not be happy, their goals went up, but now you have this new team coming in that's trained, and they're trained to hit the larger goals. They're trained with the newest info. They understand the new marketing that's out there as well. And there just isn't really, alignment between sometimes those sales departments. You could have friction on your sales team. You could have friction with your enablement and your sales team. And then on the marketing side, I think it's important for marketing to get involved in the enablement process. Like, let your new hires see like the ads and the marketing. I mean, like, it sounds fun, but it's also like work and research to have your trainees watch the commercials, watch the ads, watch the content that's going out there, look at the social media content, look at the YouTube videos, because they need to understand what the customers see. Because it's the worst thing when a customer is talking about, hey, I saw this online, and the salesperson says, I
What?
haven't seen anything that. Well, I've never heard of it. And they're like, it's on your website. It says it right here. So I think those things are super important. And I think it comes down to the enablement department. I think that is the real connection between marketing and sales. I think that department has to be that real glue between them.
I agree. And I agree completely. So, hopping back to corporate experience for myself, before I was leaving Hearst, is where I used to work. I was actually working with our sales team specifically for the social department, though, right? So I would do all the sales decks upwards of 20K. I think it was like right at 20K. So anything under above 20K, we would hand it off to another team member at the corporate level in New York. So, anywho, to the point you made, that enablement and that training, right? So, the services that we offer, and this was a completely different conglomerate, right? So, the sales reps were selling marketing services, right? And of course, we were executing on said sold services. And so there were a few innovations that we would go through, right? There's a different way to do this. So now we have a new O&O, right? We have a new O&O product, right? So this is a new ad product. This is the price that we want to make as a team, and boom, right? And so seeing that happen, I realized a lot of times, to the point you just made, there is a lack of training with the new and the old. And then also there is a jargon gap, right? So a lot of times, to the point you said earlier, we're speaking two different languages, right? We may have this technical infrastructure of comms that we're working through, we're communicating to each other and we understand, and it gets the job done, right? For you, hey, John is on the phone, he needs X, Y, and Z. I'm like, wait, what is that? No. And then John even asked you, hey, I see you just have a new product out. I would really love to know more about that for my industry, for my vertical, right? And then you, the salesperson, is highly confused. So in that training in the two different languages, what would you say is a good cadence? Because you essentially need a person to influence this effort, right? They need to have an overview of both the marketing and sales. Or would you say we should have the two leaders of each department meet? What would that look like for you in terms of creating that cohesive structure?
Yeah, I definitely think that, depending on how big your team is, the level of turnover, the types of products and services, but like a weekly or bi-weekly touch point, I think is super important. Depending on how you do your team meetings, I've seen in some departments where they do, their weekly huddle, they'll actually give like 5 minutes to marketing just to talk about anything new, any new ads that they're running, any new things that are out there floating online, just so the sales team is actually aware of it. And also, they would give maybe 5 minutes to their enablement leader to let them know, like, hey, here are some of the new things that are coming down the pipe. Here are new trainings that might be coming out. Here's some new self-paced stuff if you want to get ahead of what we're going to be pushing out to you all in the next couple months. We put some self-paced trainings here online. But I think definitely, like, if there's a way to incorporate them in and create those communication channels between your sales team and your marketing and enablement, I think that's the best way to do it. I think it'll be largely up to the sales leader, because the sales leader, it's their meeting, and they obviously want to run things in their way. But I think it's important to be able to have that alignment and see the benefit. And also, the sales leader can take some of those conversations off their plate, because a sales leader in some cases shouldn't really be the end all be all resource for marketing questions. That should be a marketing person that handles that. And same when it comes to actual the training piece of it. The sales leader, I think, should lead on the strategy, on empowering their people, removing roadblocks and things like that. But that's the way that I've seen it work, where they've come into the huddles, maybe just for 5 or 10 minutes, and just to kind of give a roundtable update of what's going on in their departments.
Okay. I think that's really dope too. And yeah, I've seen that. I want to talk all about my company, but I have to talk about my experience. But even in my company, right? So we use ClickUp, and I have contractors, but I'm the only one who handles sales. So if you want to sell and make some money, just come on over here. But nonetheless, we use ClickUp as like an intranet, right? And so it's that I click on ClickUp, I see the dashboard, everything in Zam Design is there, right? My little documents, my little SOPs and stuff. And so when I have a new contractor come on, right? So we recently just, I recently just got an assistant. And so she came on board probably about a week or so ago, right? And so I gave her access to ClickUp, and she was able to go on there and see new things. And so I was telling you, or people at home, you don't know this, but I was telling Ty before the call, I had onboarded 2 clients this week, right? And there is a new way that I onboard, right? I am removing a lot of steps from the agency and putting a lot more trust in our clients to actually, be adults and kind of onboard themselves a little bit. And so she essentially was more familiar with the last process, because when I interviewed her, I told her about our 4 steps, all of the things. And so now she was able to go on our ClickUp, click, see the little new docs and stuff. It's all through Google, whatever. And it was there for her, right? And so for this at an enterprise level, at scale, when you have hundreds of people working under you and they all have something new to learn from you, to the point you made, having that source of truth is needed. And it brings us into question 2, right? Because the sales and marketing, we're all wanting to drive the financial goal of the business. And I think that's pretty clear again, because at the end of the day, checks have to get signed. we want to be the Fortune 500 company. But in order for us to do that on both departments, we need to know where we stand, right? And sales is definitely closely related to the financial department. whether it would be by way of your leader being in those conversations, or you all just knowing your personal numbers and where you want to reach and what that looks like for the company. So in terms of a dashboard or a source of truth, from your experience, what would be a really good source of truth that you would like to see from your marketing department outside those trainings as it relates to helping you with your sales?
Yeah, so I think that there can be a lot of strategic things that you can actually build into a company's CRM. I know there's a lot of companies that are just basically putting every possible thing into a single CRM, whether that's Salesforce or HubSpot, and truly making it like that hub, but not just a hub for sales, but also a hub for the marketing department as well. Because I think that there's a lot of miscommunications that can happen when it comes to budgeting and budgets available. Like, for example, a common one is, it's towards the end of the quarter now, and the marketing side actually has an extra, whether it's $20,000 of budget or $50,000 of budget, but the sales leader wasn't aware of this, and the sales leader is finding out, a week before the quarter ends. They're like, "Hey, do you have anything that like you want to go to, or any events?" And they're just like, "Well, why wasn't I aware that you had this budget?" Like, there wasn't a dashboard for at least the sales leaders, whether it's your sales directors, to log into and see, oh, marketing still has unused budget here. Hey, can we use some of this so we can all go to this conference and go after these potential clients? Can we use this to go to this Chamber of Commerce event and bring our team members? So I think like that's really where it can be strategically used, is really just by letting, and both sides, letting marketing know what sales, products, campaigns are actually working. The sources of some of these sales, making sure that that's in there, so the marketing side can kind of take a look on the sales side and see that, and then on the sales leadership side, looking to see, what's available, what channels are you marketing to? Because depending on the channels that they're marketing to, that also determines now, because the sales is going to have, like, in certain departments, a budget to go out there and go out in the field. But if marketing is marketing to certain segments in certain markets, then now that tells sales, hey, let me actually bring our field sales teams this way. But if they can't see that on a shared dashboard of where marketing is actually putting their external budgets to, then they could be sending salespeople to a place where clients have not been marketed to. They haven't been warmed up to the product. They haven't seen the ads. So I think it's important for both sides, at least at the director and up level, to kind of see what each other is doing on a shared dashboard built into the CRM.
I agree with that completely. Todd, that is a very big drop for the team. So everybody at home, I don't know if you caught that. So he's saying that you should all share the resources, both financially and also what executions you're taking, right? So the point you made is the marketplace, right? And where that marketplace is for the brand, and from us in the marketing department, what are the analytics telling us, right? Where is our actual saturation? Where people actually engage with our brand, and making sure that you know that. And again, this is more account-based marketing. So think your tech sales, right? Energy sales, things of that nature, medical sales, pharmaceutical sales, all those things. And so it's just making sure that you're in the right space. So it's very funny that you said the director should talk about the budget, because that is a very touchy topic between departments, right? It's, well, you all are sales and we're marketing. We have to pay for a production next week. That's $150,000 just to get the video done, right? To even put it in all the different placements, right? And so I'm more curious to know, if it wasn't financial, what resources, because I know you said see the ads and things of that nature, what other resources would you all need in sales?
Yeah, I think really, when it comes to understanding marketing, I think it's important for sales, one, to just understand just marketing in general and the marketing KPIs, and what is marketing actually trying to do. I mean, so we see these situations where salespeople will be at a company, and this, like, a lot of times this happens in insurance, where you're there, you're selling insurance, and then some ad comes out that makes absolutely no sense. It's whether it's some animal that's out there, and the salespeople is just like, what? Like, why did we go this direction? I mean, like for example, I remember being at a company and they launched a product where there was like a big sheep, and it was a bunch of sheep that were using cell phones, and it was a big ad campaign, and we're in sales just like, what does this have? How does this help us? Like, why? And it actually like internally frustrated a lot of salespeople, and it actually brought down some of the morale to some of the folks, because the salespeople were just like, with the ability to run a Super Bowl ad, in front of all these folks, the things that you could have said that could have helped us, or the ability to put these billboards around town, the things that could have been there that really could have like gave people the information that would have helped us hit our quotas. There's frustration that can definitely build. So I think it's really understanding what is the methodology, because sales isn't really going to understand things like impressions, and what that means. They're not going to understand a lot of the different jargon that marketing uses, and a lot of the strategy. But I think if they can understand that, then one, it's just going to increase the morale. Morale is going to increase sales just in general. It may not be by a lot, but just it's going to slightly increase sales. But two, it's also going to provide them a little more trust in the company and the direction of the company, because that's important too. Salespeople, your top salespeople can leave if they don't trust the direction the company is going, and where they see the direction. Yeah, right. And a lot of times where they see the direction is from marketing, because marketing is the voice of the company. So it's like, oh, okay, the company's going this way. All right, I don't want to go that way, so I'm going this way. Okay, they're not marketing this anymore, they're marketing that. I don't like this, so I'm going to start applying out. And that happens so many times in sales, and a lot of leaders don't really kind of understand that, because sometimes your salespeople can be very reactive to things and reactive to change. They often don't like change, but it's not just change in policies. A lot of times they don't like change in marketing either, unless they understand it. So I think that's one thing that can be put inside of some of these like shared dashboards, is just understanding of the why, and also the teaching of what we're trying to do with this marketing.
I think that is a really good statement, because I feel like a lot of times we forget where our stakeholders are for the business, and they're internally first. You're dedicating, and of course you're going to get a check from the business, right? Super cool. But you're also giving us your time and expertise in which you can go give to another place for the same value or more, right? And to the point of morale, I never really thought about that. I never really thought about how our marketing, and there are a lot of like personal tidbits that people throw into like their perspectives, but for the actual technical sales, really driving that financial goal, I never really considered how the sales team would feel about what we were doing versus if it just benefited them in the end, right? And so I will say, again, I'll do it on myself, so it benefits us over here. But I know for a lot of larger orgs, they're more so leaning into that creative piece nowadays, right? We just want to be remembered. We're larger, Fortune 500. We have consistent sales. We know we need some more incrementals, but we just need to be remembered, right? Synonymous with whatever vertical that is. And so I'm going to put my little phone for a few little last questions, because the sales enablement engine, right? And so really creating that flow of not just trainings and shared resources, but just ensuring that people actually are connected. So a connected organization ensures sales has exactly what they need to close deals. It's really cool. So how should marketing audit their resource library to ensure it aligns with actual conversation sales is having? I think we covered that with that stand-in, but maybe we could explore that a little more. How do you feel like that looks in real time without being hovered over? Like, you hear that call. What does that look like?
Yeah. So I think that there's a few things. I mean, yeah, like definitely making sure that your trainings are updated is super important, because you can definitely, going back to the morale, you can lose a salesperson completely if they open up a training and they're talking about a product that doesn't exist anymore, and maybe it's on the agenda. Hey, we're talking about this training is about this product, that product, this product, that product, that product, but then one of these products does not exist, you can lose a salesperson just like, oh, this is outdated. I'm not doing this. And now they're missing, the actual module where 80% of it is actually relevant to them. So I think it is important for departments to make sure that all of that is actually updated. I think it's important to also make sure that where this matters, and depending on the company, but making sure that you have the right like battle cards in place for sales. I think that's crucial. There's so many companies that have sales teams and they're not given battle cards, and it's really up to them to figure out who the competitors are, what the competitors are doing, and it's not really sales job to do that. Like sales already has a very difficult job of trying to work and build relationships with complete strangers and convince them and persuade them to take a product. They don't have time to go and shop around at the different competitors and figure out what they're offering. So I think it's important to make sure that those battle cards are there and they're updated, and those and for departments with budget, you might want to assign just maybe an entry-level specialist. I mean, there's plenty of marketing specialist people that it's not a lot of budget for a marketing specialist, depending on your company, $50K a year, $60K a year, et cetera, depending on the region. But have someone just be focused on just that competitive knowledge and those competitive battle cards. Going back to sales morale, that really drives sales morale. Like if sales knows that the company is focused on the competitors and knows what's out there and really has a pulse on that and can give us in sales the ammunition to go out there, and fight against that part is crucial. I think the other part that we haven't mentioned is there's an entire, depending on your company, you might have an entire indirect channel of your business where you might have indirect resellers, you might have indirect partners, you might have referral partners and folks that don't work for the company, but their job is to send in leads for your sales team in exchange for a portion of the commission or residual income. The indirect market is heavily growing. A lot of companies have came out and said that they are moving most of their sales into indirect partners. Microsoft, for example, has a stat: 93% of their business is touched by an indirect partner, whether that's a reseller, indirect installer, an indirect referral partner. Zoom actually recently said that they want to push for over 50% of their sales to be done by indirect partners. So the indirect channel is actually, it's actually crazy. So the indirect channel is actually growing, largely because indirect channel can be less expensive because you don't have a heavy on-staff sales team. You have a smaller on-staff sales team, and then you have a lot of people that are just sending in leads in exchange for 10% or 15% or et cetera. But it's not just one thing to build out an indirect sales team or referral program to say, hey, send us leads, we'll send you money. You have to actually have resources for them. There needs to be a way to get them trained and certified, and to have like at least a depository for them where they can have access to, whether it's white papers, whether it's case studies, battle cards, things that can be co-branded as well, and have a co-branding policy of if you want certain indirect resellers to be co-branded with your organization. And then, or what is that process where they need to take a certain level of certification or whichever to get to that point where now they can co-brand. Like Microsoft has a specific process that you have to follow in order to get certain perks on the marketing side as an actual Microsoft reseller. Like there's certain steps and trainings, and there's certain things you need to do with your staff in order to reach that level. But that is a massive market. It's very difficult to get to the revenue numbers of Microsoft without having an indirect channel of people that are bringing in these leads. Because when you just slice and dice it, it's a lot easier to just go to someone that's friends with the CTO of a major company and say, hey, can you bring your friend over to this meeting, versus to have an entire outbound sales team try to call the CTO and get them on a meeting. Like it's going to happen more so from an external person that can bring that friend in.
That is so true. So true. Connections and that resource, again, that battle card, actually it's been playing in my mind because back to the corporate experience, we had that shared resource, right? And so it was really that internet, again, I was mentioning, I think it was like OneDrive or something like that. But for a battle card, what areas do you need to see? Because it kind of veers over into internal comms, and I'm really interested to hear your perspective on that. But that battle card, tell me about that. I'm listening.
Yeah, definitely. Now, keep in mind, there are some like some third-party companies that you can work with that are out there. There's a few of them, and basically their main job is just competitive intelligence. They
Yep.
get info from everyone of what the new products, promotions, rates, services are out there, and then they keep these companies updated. Some of them actually sell dashboards that can be white labeled, where your entire sales team can go into that dashboard and see all the competitive info for all the different companies. So you can do that, just outsource that whole thing to one of those major organizations that do that. You can actually run it internally, which is going to be probably a little less expensive, and potentially better if it's not a national product or national company. You can have someone really localize that, but you really want to really find out specifically why customers are choosing those other products. And you can find that out in many different reasons. There in many different ways. There's a lot of research that can be done. One, there's research companies they can use. So there's like focus group companies you can hire for that to bring in 10 people from your competitor, and they all get paid $60 or whichever for sitting in a focus group and answering these questions. So there's that way. Or you can do it organically by just talking to some of your target clients, bringing them out to a dinner, and just really just getting information of what are the reasons why they chose a service, what are the perceptions and the misconceptions. There's more covert ways to do this as well, through former employees, especially if you've brought on former employees from these companies into your department. I've seen certain companies pluck some of those people and bring them in to help create the actual battle card or to help update the battle card. For me, in one of the companies that I went to, I came directly from a competitor. So when I came in, I was completely plucked in like a secret group with the marketing team to help them frame up like, hey, like what were they saying about us, there. So I was able to like provide like, hey, like this is how we were selling against you, and this is some of the things that you want to keep in mind. And if you want to get the customer, you have to break this misconception, that misconception. So I think it's a mixture of just perceptions. I think it's important. Current information that's accurate on pricing, offers, discounts. What's the regular pricing? What's the discount? What's the pricing after discounts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then also just understanding the marketing side of it too. How are they going to market? What are the clients seeing, marketing wise and ad wise, and who are they targeting? And if there's a difference in a variation in ideal client profile, because sometimes your competitors may not have the exact ideal client profile. There might be some variations.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that completely, especially like with clients, and not supposed to be about me, but like in an advertising space, a lot of times we have similar verticals in our agency, and so it's like your consumer, your main consumer, is very indifferent from who you consider a competitor. Now, while you may service the same vertical, two different dollars are paying you, right? So I really like that, and I want to have some little notes. So, Kent Summers, are you familiar with him from Harvard Business School? So he talks a lot about enterprise sales, and so he was talking about solving complex goals and problems in an innovative solution with a higher price, right? And so I feel a lot of times when we get into marketing innovations, when we look at our data, right, we've done our market research basically, right, what you were just mentioning, and then we're like, oh wait, this is a new opportunity for the business. We have everybody in product marketing who's ready to go. First they went to the product team. Everybody is aligned. And so now from the sales side, where do you want to be in that innovation, right? Do you feel like you want to be the one who brings it up to the company, or are you okay with being the one who's like, hey, this is a new innovative product. Can you go sell it for us? What does that look like for yourself?
Yeah. So I think it's important when you're putting together your sales team to figure out what type of sales team that you actually have, because I think some of the biggest issues when it comes to sales teams is that you have some people that are very much kind of like the soldiers, of just like, tell me what to do so I can go do it, and that's it. I don't want to think strategy. Just please tell me what to do so I can go and execute. And then there's salespeople that are just like, give me the problem so I can strategize and make a strategic solution and creative solution, a custom solution, and then I'll go, execute on that. And those are two very, very different salespeople.
Yes.
And I think it's super important when you put your sales team together to hire for the right type of salesperson that fits the goals and how your company is going about things and how your company wants to execute and go to market. Because a lot of companies have sales teams with a mixture of both, and that doesn't always work because the soldiers are there happy of like, okay, great, the company wants us to do this, great, let's go do it. And then the ones that are flustered would be your more creative people that are like, well, I want to do it this way, I have this crazy idea of doing this and doing that and all of that, and that doesn't always work. But then on the flip side of it, you can have like this happens with startups, right? Startups, a lot of times you need sometimes those creative people that are just like, give me the problem. Hey, the problem is we have a new product, no one knows about it, and we got to get sales. So it's like, okay, great, we have the problem, we're going to go figure out crazy ways to go get the sold, and that's it. But sometimes startups will hire people that are just like, hey, just tell us what to do, we are like, we will do exactly what you tell us, and that's it. So the startups are, because they're doing so many different things, that the leaders, they're wearing so many different hats, like, oh yeah, we need you to go out and just call the people on this lead list, and that's it. So they're calling, and they're reading the script, reading the script, it's not working, they're just like, I'm doing what you told me to. And,
Be innovative.
yeah. So with the startups, just like, well, you have to add some creativity, you have to add some pizzazz. If it's not working, pivot. And it's just like, well, you didn't hire me to do that. Like I'm hired to do a task.
Yes.
so
I've encountered them.
Yeah, so I think it's very, very important. Both can be relevant. It's just that like once you go a direction, you kind of have to stick with that direction unless you make a totally new department and you have a strategic sales department that does something different. And I've seen that in companies where they've literally repivoted their department and they've tagged all the people that are just like, hey, I just execute, and they've given them a special title, whether it's like client growth executive or whatever it is. And then you have like these other ones on the more strategic side, and these are like your strategic sales executives. But I think that is the piece to it, is making sure that you have the right ones that align with how marketing is delivering with how marketing wants to go to market with their products and services.
Okay, I like that a lot. So definitely having the right people in the conversation at the right time and based around their skills. Now, this is a little funny question. I'm pretty sure the viewers at home have seen it. Have you seen the Instagram sales reps? Like, yes. They're like, it was one recently. I won't say her name. I don't want her to come sue me. She was like, a client will ask her, I have to talk to my wife or my husband about it. Do you want to talk to them about how you have to close the business, or do you want to talk to them about how you have made this best investment? I'm like, wait a minute. If you say that to me on the phone, I'm definitely going to give you a very nice, nasty goodbye, and I'm going to block your email. I'm going to block you on social, and you'll never work with my business. How do you feel about those sales reps? Because that's becoming very common. I won't say the company in which it happened to me, because I've been back in business for almost 2 years now, going on 2 years, I think this year. And so I've been meeting with sales reps for these tools and stuff. And I've met a few. They didn't know, my financial ability or inability. They assumed. And they came on with that same, I'm a hot sales rep energy. I can sell $1 million worth of products. You're basically nothing to me. How do you encounter those people as a sales leader and really help them develop a more professional skill? Because I feel like that's the current resource for a lot of people. And we need more individuals like yourself that's going to redirect them. So what are you seeing and how would you fix that?
Yeah, I would definitely say that, like, I think the biggest issue is that we are like really because there's so many tools and AI and we're doing outreach at scale when it comes to just cold selling, but we're not doing relationships at scale. And I think we need to pivot some of those folks into building relationships at scale and let them know the dual purpose of it. Because like I get messages all the time of like, hey, I connected with you because I want to, and I always challenge them like so my message that I always send back, I just type in, is this spam? and that usually like wastes enough. They're like, no, it's not spam. and then like I'll type in, is this AI? Like because I'm trying to get them. I'm trying to get the human. Like, who are you? Like your name is Susan Johnson. But like, who are you? Like, I don't know anything about you. Like, I'm an actual human being. Like, my name is Ty. I live in Las Vegas. Like, can we start with building an actual relationship? And I think that the problem right now is that, one, like, online outreach is just so inexpensive. It's crazy expensive because you can have workers anywhere. I mean, you can have workers for just a couple dollars an hour, go on and send messages, internationally. You can now outsource that through AI, where they can send a couple messages now that can be scaled out 1,000 times through 1,000 different accounts. So I think there's this notion that, like, it's easy to do, it's cheap, but I think when we look at like the effectiveness and then also how do people feel about your brand, I think we're not looking at some of those blowbacks, because like relationships, you can relationship your way into that one client that's going to make your whole year, because every company has that one ideal client, where if you can just get this one client to close this massive deal, whether it's an enterprise client, an Inc. 5000 client, a Fortune 500 client, etc., then that is more worth it than upsetting 5,000, 10,000, plus people online. But you're only going to get that client through a relationship, and it's not directly with that person. You're going to get it through a relationship of multiple different people. So how those things usually happen is you have a good relationship with one person, and they're just like, yeah, like, how can I help you? How can I help you? Okay, you do this. Well, I'll connect you to this person that I know does this. What do you do? I'm looking to try to get to this person. Okay, well, I don't know that person directly, but I know someone that does. I'll connect you to this person. And then now there's a connection. And now you're on to the next person. And then you talk, how can I help you? How can I help you? And then you really want to get to that person. Maybe that person gets you there, or they get you a person that can get you closer. And you can ping pong your way through just by bartering connections to get to that ideal massive enterprise client. And it's a lot more organic. You're building relationships on the way. You're building rapport along the way. You're building a good brand for your company along the way, versus going the mass outreach of AI, because eventually people are going to smarten up. They're going to have AI responders, and I'm starting to see that on the other side. Where executives have these AI responders. It's just like, this is an automated message. Please type the intent of, like, so. So that's what I think. I think it's not outreach at scale. I think it's relationships at scale. And I think companies need to figure out how they're going to actually do that piece of it.
Very smart, very smart. Don't be that Instagram sales rep. You will lose the business, okay? And businesses done well do grow, all right? You don't want to miss out on future dollars. That is a lot. That's definitely a lot, because I feel as if a lot of times we miss out on that research part, right? And then we go after, to the point made, volume, right? And for me, I love very intentional business, and it is hard to be intentional, okay? So if you're going to take that hard, I enjoy that, right? And so in sales, we're selling solutions, right? And so for my business, for one, a lot of times if it's an account based, I'm probably not the person who's vulnerable about the problem in the business. I just know I have to solve it. But if it's a smaller entity, and small business can go up to 5 million people out there who didn't know that, this could be a lot of money for your business, right? If you sell that correctly. So just make sure you do your research. And I want to end with this last question. So ultimately, both departments, both marketing and sales, exist to reach the organization's financial goals, right? And so how do you shift the conversation from departmental budgets, which we kind of touched on earlier, to revenue-based incentives, right? So what is one strategy for creating a shared KPI that forces both teams to care about the funnel?
Yeah, I think that has to come down to how strategic you're going to be with compensation. And I've seen a lot of companies get really creative with that. One of the ways that some like late stage startups are doing it is they're just doing like a shared commission model, where, hey, if the department, like if our division hits our number, then everyone gets the commission, and it's paid out by the actual number up that the company hits. So our goal, for the year is, 20 million. And, if we hit 25 million, then everyone gets this. If we hit, 28 million, everyone gets this. And now everyone's all together on it. So now it's not individual. And it's also not really stress as well, or we're stressed and everyone's stressed. If we're not hitting the goal, then everyone's stepping up and everyone's working together. But it takes that individuality out of it because, in sales, naturally, you're going to have folks that have egos, and it's going to happen. And there's because to get to some of these levels, to continue your career in sales, there has to have been moments in your sales career where you basically said, you know what, it's me or nothing. So I need to hit my goal. I need to survive. They're cutting people. I need to last. So you're going to have folks that have been through the trenches where they had to just kind of like, it's all about them. So when you have, yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. You have winners of Hunger Games. You have winners of Squid Games that are basically on your sales team. People that have survived some very tough situations in their life. So by doing compensation models like that, it now takes all of that away. It puts everyone's shoulders down. It puts everyone together. We're all holding hands, and we all have to work together to do this. And then we all start doing things where, all right, this isn't in my normal job description, but I'm going to help because this helps all of our commissions. And I think when we can start doing things like that, it's extremely, extremely helpful. And that involves multiple things. And now you see sales helping out with certain things on the marketing side, freely. Like, yeah, I'll take, a couple hours out of my day to help the marketing side, build out something because it's going to help everyone's commission. Or you have marketing saying, hey, you know what? Sales, like, I'm going to come and join you like at this session that you're going to, or I'm actually going to help give the presentation because I know you're not really like versed on this particular product, or you're brand new, because it helps everyone. Product marketing, bring them in, the product management department, bring them all into it. And that's the way that I see it. And just make sure that you set your salaries accordingly, just so you could attract still the right talent that you need.
Okay, that is dope. Share the wealth. That is the answer. Share the wealth, and the resources too. So Todd, this has been an amazing chat. The comments have rolled in. This was our last comment right here. He says, this is dope. Keep shining. We're going to try. Okay. But we need people like you to help us do so. But Ty, I want to thank you and also Jared and Big Stage Energy for not only sharing this year with AMA, but the stage. I hope that the viewers can connect with you all. Definitely go get some conferences. Y'all gonna see me join real soon. Some conferences I want to go to. So again, thank you. And we'll definitely give people ways to stay connected with your team.
Absolutely. I really appreciate you having me. This has been an awesome conversation, and thank everyone for listening. And yeah, we'll definitely see you at the next one. Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you for everything your organization does for our community as well.
We be trying. All right. So guys, I'm going to close us out with a few lasting words. All right. So membership and events. So as you all know, AAMA is powered by members like Ty, powered by members like you who are at home watching now and later. I see you. And then membership just allows us to continue offering meaningful programs, right? We want to pay our speakers. We want to get more venues. We want to come to your city too. We see the DMs. But if you're not a member yet, we'd love for you to join us, whether you are a professional, nonprofit leader, or agency owner like myself. We have affordable options for you. So, one little fact, after April 2026, we are going up on our membership rates. So this year we have a lot in store, and we have been more advised by our current community to give a little bit more. And so to do so, we're definitely going to ask for just a little dollar or two. But currently, until the end of April, I think I said May earlier, but at the end of April, our collective for professionals, that one is $149 a year. For mission partners, which will be your nonprofit leaders and the likes, those are $99 a year. And these do come with multiple memberships under them. All details are on the website. But then the Business Builder Collective and agency and small business owners, that is $249 a year, and that gets you 3 people. But for more information on current pricing and updates, please go to our website, aa-ma.org. It's at /membership. And then a little closing fact. On April 1st, we're actually going to close public programming for 30 days. All right, so me and my team, we're going to take a step back just to take a larger step forward. Okay. So we have a lot in store starting in May. We have the details ready. We just, we got to make sure that everybody's aligned. Okay. But this 30-day planning period does start April 1st. You will see May events roll out, and we encourage you to please send us your ideas for both Q2, 3, and 4 this year. But I don't think I mentioned this before I ended. We are doing marketing for the Culture Summit 2026. So the wait list has been published. I should be talking to our marketing team, right? But it's been published roughly about 3 or 4 days now. So go over there, check it out. We are super excited to turn Houston up, as we always do. But really bringing together marketing professionals this year to talk about AI, data, and how that relates to marketing, right? So I'm super excited to see the speakers and panels roll out. I don't know who's applying yet, but I want to see you apply. So make sure you do so. If you don't follow us on social media, I think you do because you're here on YouTube or LinkedIn or Facebook. But if you don't, please follow us on Instagram and Threads at AAMA Houston, LinkedIn at African American Marketing Association, that's us, our YouTube, African American Marketing Association, and tag us in your post. So you can use hashtag AAMA or hashtag AAMA Elevate. And folks, that's all.